Welcome to Small Business 21st Century. I'm your host, Don Moragne, and this is another session of the Wealth Zone University. Welcome. Today, my guest is one of my favorite entrepreneurs, me. Nah, that can't happen. So I guess this is a straight talk. You figured that out, but I got you thinking, right? Okay. And I want you to keep on thinking because today's topic is something that I really want you to commit to memory and make sure that you fully understand. The topic of today, and I really like this title, is would you buy your business from you? Think about that. Would you buy your business from you? You spend 10, 20, 30 years building this thing, and at the end of it, the question is, do you want it? Would you buy it from you? I mean, what's in it that you would want to get from you? And that's what we want to make sure we talk about today and define a couple of terms. And so when you are planning to leave your business, that's called exiting. And trust me, every small business owner will exit their small and medium-sized business, which we call SMBs, at some point in time, through sale, through merger, through acquisition, unfortunately through their demise, retirement. Anything could happen, but exiting is something that absolutely happens. Mostly it's long-term, 10, 20, 30 years from now, but unfortunately it could be sooner than that. So today we're going to talk about those things because I want to make sure that you understand that the reason the Wealth Zone University advocates that your company should become an economic asset, the reason that we advocate that you should build value and wealth into your company, the reason that we advocate all of the things that we've been talking to you about in all of the sessions that you've been kind enough to watch and attend with me, all the reasons we talk about that is because we're supposed to be building wealth in these endeavors that we're spending our time with. And again, wealth is a long-term proposition, but it starts at the beginning. And so does exit planning. It starts at the beginning. So what is exit planning? Let's talk about terminology. You've heard succession planning used to cover everything from figuring out what you're going to do with your business to figuring out who's going to take it over. And succession planning is a word that is used by attorneys, financial advisors, we accountants, and because we use it, you company owners and CEOs use it also. But I need you to understand that succession planning is only one aspect of exit planning. Exit planning is the larger, more comprehensive word, and I'd like you to start using that instead of succession planning because one of the things that we CEOs need to do, and those of us who aspire to be CEOs, we have to be knowledgeable about proper terminology, which makes us knowledgeable about proper definitions and makes us knowledgeable about the folks who we're talking to, fully understand what we're trying to accomplish. A few episodes ago, we talked to you about the top line in your financial statements not being sales or income, being revenue, and that the bottom line is the income. Well, again, most people, when they talk about it, they talk about that first line as being income, and that is not actually correct, but it's a colloquialism, okay? When we talk about succession planning, again, one aspect of exit planning, but it's colloquialism. It's used all the time. And believe me, when I first started in business, I used the word too because all the attorneys and advisors and companies that I was interacting with were using that term. But when I started interacting with the larger companies, when I became CFO for the larger companies, it became quite imperative that you understand the difference between the different aspects of being in business, the terminology changes and the proper use of the terminology. And that's one of the things in the Wealth Zone University that we absolutely continue to bring to you. There are a lot of things that are called by a lot of names. That's fine. But you as CEO have to know the proper terminology, have to know what it means, and have to make sure that everyone around you interacting with you understands what you're talking about, even if you have to teach them what these words mean. Okay, so let's start with terminology, okay? Succession planning is when I'm thinking about leaving my business and I am going to train or develop someone from within the company to take my place. That could be my family, it could be an employee, it could be management, but essentially succession planning is taking from within your company or your family, and then actually that person taking your place. Normally in succession planning, there is no buyout purchase. It's just someone comes up, takes the leadership position. As a former leader, you may get a salary, you may get some compensation, but essentially your company continues because someone from inside who has the talent that you've groomed and shown how to work, knows how to run the company well, or you bring your family in, your kids, okay? Which is an excellent way to make sure that you pass on wealth and talent to your legacy. Later on, we're going to talk about some strategies that include succession planning, but I need you to know that succession planning is only one aspect of exit planning. The word that you always hear from your attorneys and your accountants and your advisors, succession planning, I need you to understand that it's a misnomer, because the broader aspect, exit planning, is what I need you to start thinking about, okay? So exit. What are the possible exit ways? You could sell it. You could give it away. Right, fat chance, right? It could be become a joint venture. You could just retire and close, which hopefully you'll never do. It could run out of money, which hopefully will never happen. I mean, there are so many ways that a business owner can exit their plan, and you have to plan and strategize for each of those, even the ones that you don't want to happen or you don't think will happen, because nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. And the most important thing for exit planning is you don't want to be caught without a plan, and you don't want to be caught without having thought of the outcome for the plan, because for most business owners, our wealth is in our business. Our wealth is in our business. That's why we tell you to make your company an economic asset and build value and wealth into it, so that at the end, you can realize wealth from the disposition of your company. Yeah, we want you to realize wealth all along, financial security, financial independence, and wealth for yourself and in your business. But at the end, when you spend 20, 30 years working, you don't want to close the door and just walk away. You want me, a third-party entrepreneur, to look at your company and say, oh man, I'm going to give him a few $1 million for this because this is what I really want. And then you walk away. The thing, I'm going to give you a visualization, okay? Succession planning, at the end, you as the business owner are able to get a cabin cruiser and rent a property in the Caribbean and spend summers there, okay? For the sale, you are able to buy a yacht with a captain to sail it and buy the island. You see the possible magnitude and difference between that? But it all depends on you actually strategizing and planning. And exit planning is the term that I want us to use going forward. Exit planning is a term that I want you as CEO to explore, research, and understand. And when someone says succession planning to you, you should know that it's only one aspect of exit planning, and it's talking about someone from within the company or the family taking over the company for you, and that may not result in a windfall of money for you, which we all should be expecting from our laborers for 10 and 20 and 30 years. Okay? Good. So one of the ways is, and the most common way to exit your company, is to sell it to someone who is interested in it. But let's assume that I am someone who wants to acquire your business, and we're talking. The first thing I've got to see is whether or not there's any value in that company for me. I mean, what am I paying you for? That's one. Two, I need to determine whether or not there's sufficient cash flow that I can get my living requirements out of this company. That's number two. Number three, I've got to see that there's sufficient cash reserves so that I know that after all the money comes in and all the money goes out for my obligations, that there's some money left over for future operations and for helping me build my wealth. Because you remember what I told you before. What does it take to build wealth? Positive cash flow. And I heard all of you say it, so it's not a problem. So it's really imperative that we understand that. And we have to understand that we start exit planning at the beginning, at the startup phase. Yeah, it's 20 years, 30 years before you're going to have to really actualize it. But the question becomes, what would you like to happen? Sure, over the years it's going to change, but you need to be looking at exit planning in each of the 4 phases of the business life cycle. Startup, growing, established, and mature. Now in the established and mature phases, the 3rd and 4th, it becomes real life, okay? We're talking about something that may be imminent. In the first 2 phases, we're talking about just strategizing, but that's really important. I'm going to let you sit with that for a while and ruminate, and I'm going to be back in a couple of minutes, and then we're going to talk about some things that go into the strategy and the process, and then I'm going to give you a little information about something that I think is very interesting in terms of exit planning, okay? So don't go anywhere. Come back. I'll be waiting for you. You know it. And my special guest today will be waiting for you also. See you. Hi, everyone. The objective of the Wealth Zone University is to change your mind about money, to change your financial future. Hi, I'm your host, Don Moragne. In the Wealth Zone University, my guests and I talk about a wide variety of business, financial, and other worldly topics. We are seeking to both educate and entertain you. We emphasize that the informations and discussions are my opinion, perspectives, and ideas, and those of our guests. We in no way intend to deliver or provide financial, tax, or business advice. You should consult with your tax, accounting, financial, insurance, and legal advisors regarding the impact, application, or pertinence of any topic or opinion that we share on the Wealth Zone University. Thank you for being a part of our audience, and please continue to communicate with us through email and Twitter, because this is your show. Welcome back. We were talking about exit planning when we left, and I want to read a definition of exit planning so that you understand exactly what we're talking about in formal language, okay? So excuse me for looking down. Exit planning is the comprehensive analysis of all of the factors that impact the small business and medium-sized business owners' strategies and scenarios for exiting their business, which is essential for safeguarding the legacy of the business, protecting the business's assets, and ensuring the financial security of the business owner. Did you get that part? Exit planning strategy is for safeguarding the legacy of my business, protecting the assets that I built and put into my business, and for making sure that I come out on top financially when I want to leave my business. That's a big job for one category of planning. But that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to plan and strategize. But that's why I want you to understand that it's exit planning, and that succession planning is only one aspect of that. And I need to get you to at least agree with me on that before we end this session. I want to tell you, sales of businesses happen all of the time. And I've got an example. We all know Facebook, which is called Meta now. Meta has purchased 91 other companies. 91 other companies. You know, we're talking about just selling out one company. They acquired 91 other companies. They acquired WhatsApp for $16 billion. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because we think that sale and succession planning and exit planning and all those things are just at our level. It's going on all the time in commerce. Meta says that the most of these companies they bought, not for the company or the product, they bought it to get the talent, the people, the acquisitions, the vision inside of that company, because in many of them, they just dumped the company itself and kept the people. And so there are a lot of reasons why there are sales, mergers, and acquisitions, but the most important thing is that they happen because the target company has value, has worth, and has something that the acquiring company desires. And in order for that to happen, we've got to start planning from the beginning. And again, economic asset, working towards wealth, value, and cash flow are things that we should be doing now in each phase of the business plan to make sure that that's available when we decide to exit, okay? Another thing, there's this organization called the International Business Brokers Association. One of my credentials when I was working was being a business broker, and I got that credential because I wanted to be able to learn how to value businesses. I also want to learn how to be on the selling and purchasing side of businesses, because it's vital when you're the advisor for a company, whether it's on the sales side or the acquisition side, that you know what you're doing, you know what they're supposed to be doing, and you know that the process is going appropriately, that you do your due diligence, and you also anticipate what the buyer or the purchaser are going to want. Okay, that's negotiations. We may talk about negotiations in another session, but I wanted you to understand that. And so I need you to know where your company is, and the International Business Brokers Association, short IBBA, has developed what they call size standards. Not the same size standards as the SBA, but the size standards for exit planning. So again, I'm going to read, but please forgive me. The first term is Main Street, which is most of us. Businesses valued at less than $2 million, which may include owner-operated businesses and franchise, and often sell to an individual operator, replacing an owner, or can be an add-on to a growing business. This accounts for 90% of all businesses in the United States. Main Street. So most of us are Main Street businesses, okay? Second category, lower middle market. Businesses valued between $2 million and $25 million, often appealing to individuals escaping the corporate grind or to strategic or private equity buyers. And so we are trying to get all of you to move from Main Street to at least lower middle in terms of our companies, okay? The third one is middle market. Businesses valued between $25 million and $50 million, which are often targets of similarly sized or larger companies or private entity groups. Now, the middle market is where we as CFOs operate. That's where we come in and make sure that these companies move to the next level. Sure, we're in the lower middle market as CFOs, but we're bringing them to the middle market through our advice and consulting. That's the value that a CEO brings to a company. The last one is the upper middle market, transactions for businesses over 50 million, which obviously is the Meta transaction, okay? Which often involve corporate mergers, which is two companies coming together, acquisition, which is just a sale or purchase, and firms, and are done by specialized investment and M&A firms. Okay, you've heard the term M&A, it means merger and acquisition, but there are large firms that do nothing but this for this kind of company. Trust me, my CFO firm could not transact a sale or merger or anything for Meta. We just don't have the expertise and the exposure to handle that. So there are certain firms that specialize in that. Main Street, most of us don't need that specialization, but you do need an attorney who understands exit planning and understands sales and purchases. You need a financial person, a CFO, or an accountant who understands acquisitions and exit planning. And you need to make sure that you understand it too. Because when we're at the table and I'm the seller and that's the buyer. I'm selling my life. I'm selling my life's work. If you don't understand what's going on, you may not get what you deserve out of that process, okay? That's important. It's you. Another thing, if I asked you today how much your business is worth, what would you say? You'd say, well, I'm making $200,000, so that's what I want. That's what I think it's worth. Well, that's not true because you've got assets in there. They could be tangible assets. They could be intangible assets. They could be your brand name. They could be trademark. You have cash in there. There's so much that you should have in your business that adds to whether or not that business has value to someone else and how much that value is. So that brings me to another point. Exit planning, you develop the strategies. You develop the scenarios. You determine what you would like to happen and what could possibly happen and put milestones, action plans, and dates on those things. But in order for you to actually know how much the transaction is worth, you have to have your business valued. And you can't do that by yourself. You need a business valuation company to do that for you. Again, that's why I went to IBBA to learn how to do that, because it's an expertise that has to be learned. Accountants don't necessarily have it. Lawyers don't necessarily have it. It's an expertise that has to be learned because it has many moving parts. But you need to get a valuation. When do you have to get a valuation? When you're a startup, in the startup phase, you probably don't need it because you're building and growing and things are fluctuating. When you go into the growing stage, you probably don't need it because then you are making sure that you put in all of the components that are making your company a going concern. When you leave the growing phase and go into the established phase, that's when you have to start getting your business valued. Whether you do it annually, every 5 years, you need a valuation for two reasons. One, you need to know how much your company is worth and how much it's going to be worth on the market. But two, you need to be able to determine what else you have to do to increase the value of that business. Remember, if I'm in my established phase, and let's say I'm doing 15 million, okay? The assumption is I can sell it for 15 million. There's a whole concept called multiples, which we'll get into some other time. But let's just say if I'm making 15 million, I sell for 15 million, that's a multiple of one, okay? We'll talk about multiples at some other time. But I've got time. I've got another 10 years. What should I be doing in my company to get that sale price from 15 million to 20 to 25? It may not necessarily be an increase in revenue. It could be value. It could be market share. It could be recognition. It could be goodwill. There are a bunch of things that can happen, but you won't know unless you plan and strategize. Get good advisors around you, advisors who understand large business. We in the small business community, we operate in our little realm and we're happy there. But you can see there's a larger realm outside of us that we don't know about that we need to get involved in. Exit planning is extremely important. Doing it regularly is vital. Getting a business valuation when you enter the third and fourth phases of the business life cycle, which again are established and mature, is absolutely mandatory. Building cash into your business and a cash reserve is mandatory. Now understand, when you sell your business, your cash doesn't go with it. That's your cash. But me as a potential purchaser, I look in and there's no cash in your business, and the question becomes, what's there for me and how it's being operated. If there's a cash reserve, a large cash reserve, I know that there's going to be a positive cash flow, which I need. Okay? So stay with us. Make sure you listen to us. But the most important thing that you can do is make your business into an economic asset that has value and wealth, and conduct your exit planning regularly, ongoing, with the intention of becoming that person who gets the yacht with the captain and buys the island and goes on their merry way with all the wealth they can get, okay? Don't forget, when you get that yacht, hey, I got a swimsuit. Invite me, okay? Till then, I will see you later. I would like you to tell me whether or not the subjects we're bringing to you are really good. We've got a free ebook called Would You Buy Your Business From You that we'll gladly send you so you can see what we're talking about. But until then, thank you for being a WZUer.